I'm joined by Rajeev Kumar ji, who's the chairman of Pehle India Foundation, the past vice chairman of NITI Aayog, and we are going to discuss current economic scenario. So, sir, just need to understand that according to you, what's the current scenario of the economy right now? Because we have seen a lot of headaches and there were so many geopolitical concerns in past 1 year. So, how do you look into next 1 year and the current scenario?
Well, the current scenario is actually quite amazing because we have tackled all the geopolitical uncertainties and the Trump tantrums and everything else. And in the last 2 quarters, the economy has grown at 7.8 and 8.8% in real terms. And that just shows that this economy has resilience and can actually weather the storms that it has to face. Having said that, I think going forward, we might see a slight decline in the rates of growth in the second half of the year because the first half has grown at 8%. But overall, the year 25-26 will see the economy growing at above 7% for sure. Now, that's a very creditable performance for any large economy in the given circumstances. I'm also hopeful for the longer term because of the reform agenda that the government is adopting or has adopted already, and is not just sort of sitting back saying that okay, the economy is growing nicely, so let's so for example the announcement GST simplification, the labor codes, announcement of the labor codes, their notification, the 70,000 crore announced for shipping industry,
yes,
and the big amounts announced for semiconductors and so on. So I think we are on the right track. And most very importantly, the huge improvement in our infrastructure that is helping everybody, including the corporates. So I expect that the economy will continue on this path for some years to come.
As you rightly said, that the GST was the biggest reform in past 1 year, if we say. So, do you see this momentum to continue, or is just a matter of 1 or 2 quarter benefit of the GST to the economy?
The benefit of the GST will be more likely once off because people will settle down to the new rates, as it were, and it's so, and the rates are not going to keep coming down. Exactly. So therefore, the growth of the economy will not drive from increased consumption only, but due to GST, but increased consumption due to rising employment, which will follow rising growth. So the GST impact, in my view, will taper off, unless, of course, they can do further simplification and bring the fuels under the GST, because at the moment they are not. So if they can bring energy, electricity and petroleum and diesel under GST, that will help a lot because that will again reduce costs for the industry, and that might then spur another round of growth. But I don't see that coming because the states may not agree to that. At the moment, I think GST, but let's remember that it has been a big reform already, and the simplification would make life easier for the small and medium enterprises, and that itself will provide some impetus to growth.
And so in the labor code, there are various provisions that are going to increase women participation in the whole workforce scenario. So how do you see this is going to benefit the economy, and any other impact do you see?
Well, women are half the workforce, and so far they were not allowed to work on night shifts and not allowed, and certain other restrictions are there which have now been removed by the new labor law and the codification. But here the key sort of would be how the states implement these laws, and therefore you might find that in some states there isn't a social acceptability for women to work at night, and so they may not implement this law. And therefore, because again, like many other laws, labor is also in the concurrent list. So therefore, whatever center is announced, it is not incumbent on the states to implement those in that very shape. So they will each find their own ways of doing so. So I am hoping that by the time the the labor laws are notified by March, the notification would be done after widest consultation with the states, so that you get something like a labor council, if you like, which agrees to all the norms, including those for facilitating women employment. And if that happens, then the female labor participation rate, which is actually very low in India compared to other countries, I think it's gone up to about 41%, but still only half the women, less than that, come into the workforce. If that goes up, that will be a real gain for the GDP, and that will be provide a real boost for our growth.
So in your opinion, what do you think about the India-US bilateral trade agreement we are expecting? It has to be done very soon. So what's your expectation? Will this be a kind of rollback of all the things, or there will be still things which can pinch us?
Well, I don't expect the entire rollback, because the US President Trump is quite clear that he doesn't want the kind of imports of garments and auto parts and other things into US. So I think those will remain. Pharma has already been exempted, so I think that's benefiting anyway. Marine exports, for example, I don't think it will come back. So to that extent, we will have to find new markets. And I'm glad to see that this process has already begun. And although the exports to the US are down by about 28%, it has not affected overall exports overall. My fear, on the other hand, is the US insistence on permitting their agricultural imports into India, because that is one of their major constituencies, the Midwest. And there I'm not sure whether we will be able to permit that. Tariff-free imports of corn, maize, or soya bean, or other things like that, and that might be a sticking point. But we can make up for that by importing a lot more fuels from the US, petroleum and gas, which might satisfy them. So overall, I think, but there is one thing, Saurabh, which is that maybe the more important part of the US-India bilateral ties is the finalization of a bilateral investment treaty, because that has not yet been done. And the US investors, especially not the largest but the smaller ones, are not willing to come to any country where they don't have any guarantee against, for their investment going bad. So I hope that bilateral investment treaty is signed sooner, even sooner than maybe the bilateral trade. People don't talk about it but getting more capital investment and technology from the US perhaps is more important than the US market, because that can be replaced, but not the US foreign direct investment and its associated technology.
So another thing is Russia. So in a way, experts are saying that we are falling in line as per US expectations, and we have to a certain extent stopped buying oil from the Russia. So is this going to be impact us, our current account deficits and all?
I'm not clear that we will stop buying all oil from Russia. I think some of it will continue, but nonetheless, if we are whatever we are not going to buy will mean higher costs, unless, of course, as is happening, the global price of oil and gas declines, because that is what the recent trend has been, because of demand falling, especially from China, the global prices have come down. So to that extent, we will not be impacted that much negatively. But with Russia, our relations are so long and so strategic. I think they will continue, and the Russians understand our own compulsions, and as long as we have that understanding and the ongoing relationship on our defense equipment, I think Indo-Russia relations will not be impacted by our buying less oil or gas from Russia.
So what's your expectation on the President Putin's visit, upcoming visit in this week, sir?
Well, I have the same expectations, which is that this will be a reinforcement of our fraternal ties, which have always, Russia has been one country which has stood by India for always and has never changed that stance, and we can always count on them for their help in any global negotiations or understanding. I think President Putin will reinforce that, and I'm hoping that India will also be able to convince President Putin that this is not an era of war and that we should let peace prevail. And I hope he will take that message and implement that as soon.
So, last question. Everything is becoming good if we talk about the markets. It's on record high, GDP is growing. But the one concern is rupee. It's sliding and going to a record low. So what's your expectation and what's your concern? Is there be any kind of upcoming Reserve Bank policy? Reserve Bank should do something, or what should be the way out?
Sir, but declining rupee is not a matter of concern. You should understand that. Who does it affect, the declining rupee? Only those who have lots of money to go on foreign travel, or who are sending their children to study abroad, right? Or they are importing luxury items, like they will import asparagus and so on. So declining rupee is a concern to them. So it's not a concern to me and to anybody who is in the export industry. A declining rupee means a greater incentive for exports. So I have been always a proponent of a weak rupee, because a strong rupee is only meant for the elite and not for the common person of India. So therefore don't think about rupee going up again. I just saw today that it has declined nicely. The real effective exchange rate and the NER are both below 100, which is a good thing to happen. So let us keep it at that. Now the issue, the more concerning thing is employment, and especially educated youth employment. That has to increase, and that can increase much better, not by the gig workers, but by growing our labor-intensive export industries. I think that is what we should be focusing on, and for that to happen, a weak rupee is a good thing. Let me repeat, a weak rupee is a good thing, and this whole notion that strong rupee is good for this country is patently wrong.
And so, as you said, that the quality jobs is the need of the hour. So what's your expectation from the budget regarding this?
I think the budget will announce measures for improving the ease of doing business further, and especially in the export-oriented sector. And because they will do that, that will mean that these sectors will start getting more dynamic and getting growth higher, and they will then offer employment to our educated youth. And therefore that will be a positive thing from the budget. The other thing that the budget can and perhaps will do is to announce a simplification and a stronger reinforcement of the production-linked incentive scheme. And if that happens and those sectors also start growing, they will also offer employment to our educated youth. And finally, the budget will perhaps allocate monies for our AI centers, like the one announced by Google and so on, and for the power backup required for them. And if the AI industry or the GCC industry picks up, they also, offer employment, large-scale employment. But my one hope from the budget, I don't know whether they'll be done or not, is to announce some measures to promote foreign tourism in India, because that's the most employment-intensive scheme, sector and project. And when foreign tourists will arrive, they will bring with them foreign exchange, and because the rupee is weak, that will be more attractive, and that offers very attractive employment to people in the places that they are living, and that will be the best thing that the budget can do.
Thank you so much, sir. So Rajeev Kumar was saying that the Indian economy has shown resilience and it will continue to grow in next year as well. With camera and Sarju Singh, Saurabh Shukla, ETV Bharat, Delhi.